I still remember the moment they pushed the envelope into my hand, cold, flat, and heavy like a stone dropped on my chest. I was standing in the middle of the company hallway, the place where I had worked for 25 years. People I trained, people I advised, people who used to greet me with smiles, suddenly stood still like statues. No one spoke. No one blinked. They all just watched. And the manager, young enough to be my son, looked straight into my eyes and said the words that nearly broke my spirit. "You are dismissed, effective immediately." My knees shook. My heart pounded like a drum. It felt as if the world around me had collapsed in one breath. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. I stared at him, waiting for someone to say it was a joke. But he folded his arms and added, "We don't need you anymore." Those words hit my soul. They dismissed me like I was nothing. And the cruel part, everyone around me turned away, like I was invisible. The security guard stepped forward. "Ma'am, please hand over your badge." My badge, my identity, my pride. It felt like they were ripping my story out of my hands. I held my bag tightly, trying to stop the tears from falling. As I walked out of the building, I heard someone whisper behind me, loud enough for it to sting. "She's finished." But little did they know, I would return one day with a story of victory that none of them would ever forget. The real shock, however, the moment that changed everything, did not happen until I reached the company gate and saw who was waiting for me there. But before I tell you what happened at that gate, let me take you back to where this whole storm began. My name is Margaret, though most people call me Grandma Maggie. I had a simple childhood, a simple life, and a very big dream to work hard, support my family, and one day retire with joy in my heart. When I got the job at Brightfort Holdings, it felt like God himself opened a door for me. It was one of the best companies in the city. People prayed for opportunities like that, and I got mine. In the beginning, life at the company was peaceful. The managers respected me. My colleagues admired me. Some even came to me for advice about their families, their relationships, their finances. Everyone said, "If you need wisdom, go to Maggie." I was like the mother of the office, and I carried that role with pride. But everything changed when a new manager arrived, Henry. He was brilliant, young, ambitious, and sharp-tongued. He didn't like older workers. He didn't hide it. The first day he saw me, he said, "We need fresh minds in this company." And even though he smiled while saying it, I could sense the hidden edge in his words. I felt it. I knew something was coming. But I never imagined it would come with such force. One day, during a team meeting, Henry pointed at me in front of everyone and said, "You're slow. You don't match the energy of this new generation." I felt embarrassed, but because I am a grandmother, I swallowed the hurt and kept working. I told myself, "Don't worry, Maggie, your work will speak for you." But my work wasn't enough. Henry wanted someone young in my position, someone he could control, someone he could brag about to the board. I was just an old woman in his way. Still, I tried. Every day, I arrived before everyone and left after everyone. I handled tasks that younger workers refused to touch. I trained new staff even when they rolled their eyes. I corrected their mistakes and made them look good. I did everything to keep peace and protect my job. But the more I worked, the more Henry found ways to push me aside. He removed me from important meetings. He ignored my suggestions. He shortened my breaks. He told people not to ask me for advice. And the worst part, he pretended to be nice while doing it. One afternoon, he called me into his office. "Margaret, we're restructuring," he said. "You need to be ready for changes." I asked, "What changes, sir?" He smiled, one of those smiles that had no kindness in it. "You'll see." From that day, everything went downhill. My desk was moved closer to the exit. My tasks became pointless, busy work. People started avoiding me. Rumors started spreading that I was too old, too slow, holding the company back. I knew who started them, I just had no proof. Then came the day I made a mistake, a small one, something anyone could have fixed in 2 minutes. But Henry turned it into a mountain. He shouted at me in front of everyone. He banged his hand on the table. He said, "You're outdated." That day, I went home with swollen eyes. My daughter asked what happened, but I just said I was tired. I didn't want her to worry, but my heart was hurting. I stayed up all night praying and telling myself, tomorrow will be better. But tomorrow came, and brought the storm with it. One morning, I arrived early like I always did. I cleaned my desk, arranged my files, and made tea for myself. The office was silent, peaceful. Then I saw Henry walking toward me with a letter in his hand. Behind him were 2 HR officers. Behind them was the security guard. Behind the security guard were my colleagues, watching. Something inside me knew it was over. Henry dropped the envelope on my table. "Sign it," he said. I opened it with trembling hands. Termination letter. No warning. No discussion. No explanation. Just like that. "You're dismissed," he said. "We don't need you anymore." My heart shattered. In that moment, it felt like all the years I worked, all the nights I stayed late, all the weekends I sacrificed, meant nothing. They dismissed me like I was nothing. And all the people I helped stood still and said nothing. I picked up my bag, held my head high, and walked out of the office. But when I reached the company gate, I saw someone standing there. Someone I never expected. Someone who would change the story forever. And just as I stepped closer, the truth I discovered hit me so hard, I nearly dropped my bag. You see, losing my job was painful. But what happened next was even more shocking. Because the person waiting for me at that gate was holding a document that proved I was not dismissed by accident. I was set up. But how? And why? That answer would shake the entire company. And it began right there, at the gate, when the person stepped forward and whispered, "Margaret, you've been betrayed." Before I could ask anything, before I could react, before I could breathe, a loud scream echoed from behind me, inside the company building. Everyone rushed out. Someone had collapsed. And that was when the real storm began. I turned sharply when I heard the scream bursting from inside the building. It wasn't a normal cry. It was sharp, terrified, the kind that forces everyone's heart to jump at once. People who had been whispering about my dismissal suddenly forgot I even existed and ran back toward the entrance. I stood frozen at the gate, my bag still hanging loosely from my hand, my body trembling from all I had faced that morning. The person who had been waiting for me stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Margaret, please, don't go back in there," she whispered. It was Helen, one of the few colleagues who still treated me with kindness. She was the quiet type, the one who observed everything but spoke very little. The document she held was still tucked under her arm, but her eyes were wide with worry. "What happened?" I asked, my voice shaking. She looked behind us, toward the entrance where a crowd was beginning to gather. "It's Henry," she said. My heart skipped. "What about him?" "He collapsed," she whispered. "Right there, right after you walked out." Everything inside me turned cold. I didn't like Henry, and he certainly didn't like me, but hearing that someone had collapsed, someone I worked with for years, stilled my breath. "Collapsed how?" I asked. Helen shook her head. "No one knows, but before he fell, he was arguing with someone. It was loud, very loud." I felt a strange heaviness in my chest, a mix of fear, shock, and confusion. "Who was he arguing with?" I asked. Helen swallowed hard. "Margaret, I think it has something to do with your dismissal." My eyes widened. "My dismissal?" "Yes," she said. "And that's why I came out here. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. You need to see this." She handed me the document she had been hiding under her arm. My fingers trembled as I took it. The paper was slightly crumpled, as if she had been holding it tightly for hours. I opened it slowly, and what I saw inside made my heart slam against my chest. It was an internal memo. A memo I was never supposed to see. A memo that revealed the truth. It showed that Henry had been secretly planning to remove me long before any mistake happened. Not for performance reasons, not because I was slow, but because someone wanted my position opened for themselves. Someone younger. Someone close to him. Someone I had trusted. My breath caught in my throat. This can't be real, I whispered. Helen nodded. It is, and there's more. She pulled out a smaller paper from her pocket. Look at this signature. I looked. My heart almost stopped. It was my signature. But I never signed anything. This is forged, I said, my voice weak. I know, Helen replied softly. And that's why Henry was shouting. Someone confronted him about it. Someone told him they knew everything, and moments later he collapsed. My mind was spinning. Forged documents. A plan to replace me. A cover-up. Who would do something like this? I stared at the signature again. Whoever forged it had practiced. The curves, the slant, it looked eerily close to mine. Too close. Then something else caught my eye. There was a line at the bottom of the memo. A name. A name I trusted with all my heart. A name that made my knees weak the moment I saw it. No. It couldn't be. Not her. But the letters were right there, staring back at me. My friend. My mentee. Someone I treated like family. My chest tightened as the truth settled in like a knife slowly being pushed deeper. That's why I came to you, Helen said. You needed to see it yourself. I felt tears prick my eyes, not from sadness alone, but from betrayal so sharp it almost took my breath away. Why would she do this to me? I whispered, staring at the name again and again, hoping it would magically change. Helen placed a comforting hand on my arm. Because she wanted your position, Margaret. She convinced Henry to help her. I overheard them. They didn't know I was there. My vision blurred for a moment. I had trained this woman. I had taught her everything she knew. I had protected her when others criticized her. I had taken her in like a daughter. And she stabbed me in the back. But before I could speak another word, before I could even process the shock, a loud voice burst from behind us. There she is, stop her. Helen and I turned at the same time. A group of HR officers were rushing toward us. What do they want now? I whispered. One of them pointed at me. We need her to come inside immediately. My heart started racing. Helen grabbed my arm tightly. What's happening? I asked. The HR officer replied with panic in his eyes. Henry woke up, and he's calling for you. I froze. For me? I asked. Yes, the officer said breathlessly. He said he needs to tell you something before it's too late. The world around me seemed to tilt. Why would Henry, after everything he did to me, be calling my name at a time like this? What did he want to say? What did he know? Was he about to reveal something or accuse me of something? I didn't know. But as they hurried us back toward the building, one thought burned in my mind. Whatever Henry was about to say next would change everything. And just as I stepped through the office doorway, a loud crash echoed through the building. People screamed. Something or someone had just fallen. And the extreme moment that followed would shake the entire company to its core. The crash was so loud that the walls seemed to vibrate. Papers flew from desks, chairs rolled backward, and people who had been quietly whispering about Henry suddenly scattered in every direction. I felt Helen's grip tighten on my arm while the HR officers rushed ahead, shouting for everyone to step back. My heart thumped so loudly, I could feel it in my throat. What was that? Helen whispered. I couldn't answer. My body wouldn't move. It was as if the sound froze me to the ground. The HR officers pushed the crowd aside, and slowly, a path opened before us. There, lying on the floor, was a woman. Motionless. Face down. Her hair covering half her face. Someone gasped. Another screamed. A younger staff member began crying uncontrollably. But the moment my eyes fell on her clothing, her familiar blue blouse, her silver necklace, the truth hit me like lightning. It was her, the same woman whose name was on the forged document, the woman I trusted, the woman Henry argued with before he collapsed, the woman who wanted my position, the woman who betrayed me. "Anna," I whispered, my voice breaking. Helen's mouth fell open, shocked. "Oh my God, Margaret," she fell. We didn't yet know whether she fainted, slipped, or was pushed. The crowd was too scattered, the moment too chaotic, but the fear I saw in the eyes around me told me one thing. Whatever happened here was no accident. Anna's hand was still clutching something, a small piece of paper. HR bent to take it, but as soon as one officer reached out, Anna groaned weakly. "She's alive," someone shouted. Her body trembled as she tried to move. She slowly turned her head, her eyes darting around, confused and frightened. When her gaze finally met mine, she froze. Her eyes widened. Her face went pale. Her breathing became uneven. Margaret," she whispered, struggling to sit up. I stepped forward instinctively, though my heart was shaking with anger, fear, and confusion all at once. "Don't move," Helen said softly. "You're hurt." But Anna wasn't listening to anyone. Instead, she reached out toward me with trembling fingers, as if I was the only person she could see in that entire room. "Margaret, she whispered, but her voice cracked. Before she could finish her sentence, the HR officer spoke sharply. "Anna, what happened? Did someone push you?" Anna looked up at him, then looked at me again. Her lips trembled violently, but no words came out. "She shouldn't talk right now," a nurse from the medical room said as she quickly knelt beside her. "We need space. Everyone move aside." The nurse and two assistants lifted Anna carefully, helping her sit upright. The paper she had been holding slipped from her hand and fluttered onto the floor. Helen bent quickly and picked it up. "Helen," I whispered nervously, "what is it?" She unfolded it slowly, her eyes scanning the content. Her lips parted in shock. "Margaret, this is another memo." My stomach twisted. "Another one?" "Yes," she said breathlessly, "but this one, it's worse. It's about you." She handed me the paper with shaky hands. I unfolded it, and the words jumped out like fire. This memo claimed that I had been manipulating financial reports, that I had mismanaged client accounts, that I had been covering up mistakes for years. Lies. Every word. My hands shook violently as I held the paper. "They were planning to frame me," I said, barely able to speak. "They wanted to destroy my name, not just take my job." Helen nodded, tears filling her eyes. "Henry and Anna were working together, but I think someone else was part of this too." My heart skipped. Someone else? Before she could answer, a loud voice echoed from the hallway. "Let her through. He's asking for her now, right now." Everyone turned. It was a doctor rushing toward us. "Where is Margaret?" he asked loudly, scanning the crowd. I stepped forward slowly. "I'm here." He hurried to me. "Henry is awake, and he's asking for you urgently. His condition is unstable, and he says he has something to confess." A wave of whispers burst across the room. I felt my hands go cold. Helen grabbed my arm. "Margaret, you don't have to go, not after everything he put you through." But I knew I had to go. Whatever Henry had to say. Whatever truth he held. Whatever secret he was carrying. It was the missing piece of the puzzle. The doctor guided me down the hallway as people moved aside silently, watching me with wide, frightened eyes. Some looked guilty. Some looked shocked. Some looked curious. When we reached the door of the medical room, I stopped. My legs felt heavy. My breathing grew weak. Helen squeezed my hand. "Be strong." I nodded slowly. The doctor opened the door. Inside, Henry lay on a stretcher, covered with wires that beeped softly. His face was pale, his breath shallow. When he turned and saw me, tears filled his eyes. "Margaret," he whispered. I walked closer, my heart pounding. "What do you want to tell me?" I asked. He tried to lift his hand but winced in pain. His voice trembled. "I didn't do it alone." The room went silent. "Do what alone?" I asked carefully. "The plan to remove you," he whispered. "It was Anna." My heart thudded painfully. "Then who?" I asked. He swallowed hard, his lips quivering. "It was someone you trust, someone powerful." My body stiffened. He opened his mouth to say the name. But suddenly, the monitor beside him began beeping wildly. He gasped. His eyes widened. His body trembled violently. "Doctor!" the nurse screamed. The doctor rushed toward him. "Henry, stay with me." I stepped back in shock as the room filled with panic. His mouth moved, forming one final word. But I couldn't hear it through the chaos. Then the monitor let out a long, sharp sound. One continuous beep. People screamed. The doctor shouted instructions. And I stood frozen, staring at Henry's face. Because I had just watched the only man who knew the full truth collapse again. And this time, he might not get back up. Life has a strange way of breaking us in places we never expected, only to rebuild us into someone stronger than we ever imagined. What happened to me inside that company? The betrayal, the lies, the forged documents, the humiliation, the fall of those who plotted against me, was a storm I never saw coming. But storms don't last forever. And mine became the turning point of my life. After Henry's collapse and the investigations that followed, every hidden truth slowly came to light. The forged memos, the scheme to replace me, the betrayal from someone I had trained with my own hands. One by one, the lies were exposed like cracks in a wall that had been painted too many times. The company tried to silence the scandal, but justice has a voice louder than fear. My name was cleared, not by luck, but by truth. And the truth always finds its way out, even when people try to bury it. They dismissed me like I was nothing. They thought age made me weak. They thought betrayal would break me. They thought removing me would make me disappear quietly. But instead, they created the fire that pushed me toward my destiny. I found strength I didn't know I had. I found new opportunities I never expected. I found doors opening in places I never imagined. And the victory that followed wasn't small. It was loud, bright, and undeniable. People who once mocked me now called me for advice. Those who whispered behind my back now spoke my name with respect. And the company that threw me out ended up needing the wisdom they once rejected. My story didn't end with the dismissal. It began with it. Because sometimes, the places that reject you are simply too small for the greatness you're meant to carry. To anyone listening to my story, here is the lesson I learned. When life pushes you down, don't stay there. Stand up, rise, and walk into the future with your head high. You may feel broken today, but tomorrow may surprise you. You may feel betrayed now, but your victory is still growing in silence. You may feel dismissed like you are nothing. But trust me, you are more powerful than you think. And your comeback can be louder than any downfall. This is not just my story. It is the story of anyone who has ever been hurt, pushed aside, or underestimated. And if you ever feel like giving up, remember these words from Grandma Maggie. They dismissed me like I was nothing. But I returned with a story of victory. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel for more videos.